My hands were sweaty, my gut churned. I stared at the tangled mess of wires and blinking lights. What have I gotten myself into, I thought. Fresh out of high school, I landed a gig as an apprentice electrician. Problem was, I barely knew the difference between a fuse and a light bulb. My first few weeks were humbling, to say the least. I was in over my head, surrounded by seasoned electricians who spoke a language I didn't understand. One day, my supervisor, a gruff but kind man named Frank, caught me staring blankly at a malfunctioning control panel. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he chuckled. I confessed my confusion, expecting a gruff lecture. Instead, Frank smiled and said, "Son, the only stupid question is the one you don't ask." He then proceeded to walk me through the problem, not by giving me the answer, but by asking me questions. What's the voltage here? Where does this wire lead? He forced me to observe, to think, to troubleshoot. That day, something clicked. I realized troubleshooting wasn't about magic or memorizing every wiring diagram. It was about observation, logic, and a willingness to ask questions. Over time, the tangled wires started to make sense. The blinking lights began to tell a story. I discovered a knack for troubleshooting, a talent for breaking down complex problems into smaller, solvable pieces. It wasn't always easy, but the feeling of satisfaction when I finally cracked the code was exhilarating. Troubleshooting, I learned, is like detective work. You gather clues, follow leads, and eliminate suspects until the culprit reveals itself. And the most powerful tool in your arsenal? The question mark. Never underestimate the power of a well-placed question. Why is this circuit overloaded? What happens when I flip this switch? What changed before this stopped working? Asking the right questions not only helps you pinpoint the source of the problem, but also reveals the thought process behind the design. The more I asked, the more I learned. I discovered that troubleshooting wasn't just about fixing machines, it was about understanding systems. Whether it was a faulty circuit, a sputtering engine, or a leaky faucet, the same principles applied. Identify the symptoms, gather information, analyze the evidence, and formulate a hypothesis. And most importantly, don't be afraid to be wrong. Every wrong answer, every dead end, brings you one step closer to the solution. Of course, asking questions is just one tool in the troubleshooter's kit. Observation is paramount. Pay attention to the details. What does the color of that smoke tell you? What does that unusual sound indicate? Common sense is your trusty sidekick. If it sounds ridiculous, it probably is. And never underestimate the power of patience. Troubleshooting is rarely a sprint, it's a marathon. There will be moments of frustration, dead ends, and the urge to chuck the whole thing out the window. That's when you take a deep breath, step back, and remind yourself that even the most complex problems are solvable with a little persistence. The lessons I learned as a young electrician have stayed with me long after I traded my tool belt for a microphone. Troubleshooting, I've come to realize, isn't just for machines. It's a life skill. We all face challenges, setbacks, and moments when we feel lost and confused. But the same principles that helped me fix electrical circuits can also be applied to navigate the complexities of life. Observe your situation, gather information, ask for help when you need it, and don't be afraid to experiment. And remember, the most important tool you have is your own mind. So the next time you're faced with a problem, whether it's a broken appliance or a broken heart, take a deep breath, channel your inner troubleshooter, and get to work. You might be surprised at what you can fix.